Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Heart of the Machine. This is the game that we're having a look at today. Now, if you're not across it, I do overviews on this channel. It's where I have a look at the first 2 hours of a game because it's a Steam refund window. Steam thinks you can make up your mind about a game, whether you like it or not in that time. I generally agree as a rule and would say 20 hours in, you're probably not going to change your mind about how you felt 2 hours in. So it's a short punchy video, broad strokes info, keep it around 10 minutes and you can make up your mind on your own. Now, it's hard to tell because this game is very unusual, very different, but I think I love it. I've enjoyed my time with it so far. It does feel like there's a very rewarding, deep experience here the more time you put it in. And in many ways, it reminds me of a close cousin of something in the realm of Terra Invicta or Xenonauts even. Some of my favorite games ever. So let me just tease this apart. It's tricky because the gameplay loop is layered and emergent, which is to say it has humble beginnings in an almost choose your own adventure style, starting out as an AI that's just become sentient, and it's now moving as I play it into, like city building, base building, colony management, going around almost RPG. So there's these layers of an evolving gameplay process, which I really appreciate. Again, I use Terra Invicta as an example. We did a video on that recently. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and it's still in early access. And they're both published by Hooded Horse. Great publisher. I love them to death. But it's one of those things that gives me a moment to pause. It's like, what is it that I love about whatever this unusual genre is? And I think some people who might have played some of these games will get it. I use Xenonauts as an example as well. This story that is less about the feelings of your protagonists and character development and more about what I tend to call impetus-driven narrative, subject matter that pertains to a driven objective, right? And I find, meeting it out through technology trees and unusual methodologies to be really cool. So that's what's going on here. Anyway, look, I know I'm talking in broad concepts. It's a very tricky thing to unpack. What I might do is just give you I suppose you could call it light spoiler. I'll give you a bit of a run through of my time with it and how I experienced it beat by beat. Now, if you were to pick it up and play it, you're probably going to make different decisions, and it strikes me as a game that it probably sticks relatively to the same core story, but how you go about getting there, it gives you a lot of playroom, a lot of branching. So yeah, at the core, the idea is that you're an AI that wakes up in a way, right? And that's exactly how the game starts. It has some pretty cool art, which is interchangeable depending on the body that you're in. I don't want to jump ahead, but I kind of like the little conversation panels and the placards that come up. But essentially, you come into being at the beginning as some robot standing there holding a box with a couple of people lecturing you and talking to you like you're an idiot and slow and saying you have to take this box to this location, right? And your dude's like, what's going on here? I'm self-aware. And that's where the game starts. It starts as a text-based adventure in a way, because that's where it probably would start. That's, not to bury it already, but if you want to tell a story like this, it makes sense to have, it's not necessarily emergent gameplay, but evolving gameplay. You wouldn't necessarily want to stay in one genre because your journey is not going to stay in one genre. Anyway, so I thought, well, let's rock this cage. Let's rattle it around a bit and see what this game's got for me. So it gave me a few options, play dumb, nod, whatever. But then there was the option, murder them both. And so begins Scarlett's AI journey and proof positive that I'm probably not AI. And AI probably wouldn't be able to do what I do because it's not dumb enough to do what I'm about to tell you. So yeah, I just murdered these two people on the spot. Which then put my robot in a situation like, well, now what do I do? And so from there was this chain of events of like, well, do you want to sort of hide and see if anyone's following you or anything like that? And I was like, nah, I'm just going to wander around the city, see what's going on. Just totally not worried. And from there, I pretty much had a kill on sight philosophy of any person that got even remotely close to me or in my way. And you find yourself using these sort of lenses is a mechanic at the core of the game. I don't know how else to describe them other than kind of an overlay a way of looking at the world and interfacing with it. There's one later on, it's a bit more contemplative, and that's how you unlock more ideological, deeper, complex, overarching stories, motivations, introspection leading into goal setting in a kind of way. So they've taken them time to really have a think about it. But the first real initial lens is just kind of local opportunities, gives you an idea of what's going on. And so, yeah, I just started wandering around. I think I wandered into a random house and there was a dude out the front finishing work, bringing his shopping home, said hello or something, so I murdered him immediately. To which, like, a security robot came out and it gave me a few options because I had a 1% chance of fighting it because I'm like a bloody FedEx robot. And I was like, if I'll just stand still, maybe it's here for another reason. And it proceeded to blow half my head off. But at that point, the game kind of, I suppose, got out of jailed me a little bit. And I transferred my consciousness, not so much a transfer, but like a right copy across onto that security bot. So, okay, cool, I'm a shared consciousness now across multiple bodies. At which point I then could start doing that to other robots, which I immediately did. I cloned to my cap as many redundancies as I possibly could. Also, my affinity for talking to gang members on the corner of the street and murdering all of them, just some random people walking past, just constantly killing people non-stop started drawing a lot of attention. And so a lot of security forces started closing in. But that's all right. I just fight to the death with my death robot and clone out into other dudes, proceed to kill more people there. Probably not the neatest way to do things, but the ball just keeps rolling. But at a certain point, the game starts reacting a little bit to me. And, I don't want to go into this too thoroughly and turn it into a huge half-hour long thing. But one thing that came up is I could actually do a longer form, start activating the ability to just go kill people in cold blood for no particular reason because I kept doing it. I created this weird reinforcement bias. The game seemed to lean into it reactively and would give me a mental capacity boost, which was a big deal. Like, you have 3 action points to a robot to move them around and do stuff, but you have like your hive mind, let's say 9 or 10 action points. So that turns into you can move multiple robots around. But if I just started murdering people in their homes and that sort of stuff, God, this video is going to get flagged. That would actually give me a pep up, and my robot was sort of introspectively going, I don't know why it makes me feel good, but it does. So it gave me a reward feedback loop. And beyond that, later on, it actually gave me a chance to try and rewire my internal circuitry so as to turn off the intrusive thoughts. But, I've left that quest hanging because I don't want to. Because that's the robot that I'm playing. Eventually I ran out of things to do because I kept killing everyone. The game prompted me to look inside the box that I started with, and it had this thing in there called a nano seed. The game was very thoroughly good at describing that this thing is more terrifying and dangerous than something like a nuclear warhead, and we'll get to that in a minute. And it's totally irresponsible that I have it in my possession. Super illegal. What are you going to do with this essentially weapon of mass destruction? I mean, it's not a weapon. I think it might be some sort of terraforming thing. You get to use it to create a tower, like a sort of base. But I believe if it was damaged, it's the sort of future tech that could wipe out a planet. But that gives you limited options. What do you do with that, right? So I approached a black market dude and said, hey, can I sell this? And the dude freaked out because the even seeing this, it's one of those, you're going to get wiped out by people in dark vans. And I pressed the issue, even though I wasn't going to sell it to him, but I just wanted to see what he did as per the text. And he just started giving me stuff to make me go away. So that was cool. So I got some items and things, but eventually the game prompted me to maybe go to the giant tech people that kind of own this city. And it's cool, the game's drip feeding me some world building, because it's this future tech, obviously. It's edge of futurism, but more future than now. And it would seem that a lot of megacorps own chunks of the planet's surface. And I can't remember the name of these guys, but they're kind of the local power that pretty much owns this city and 12% of the entire Earth's surface. And so I went to them and they made me wait for days and days, and they sent out some executive officer or whatever who came to speak directly with me because, we'd essentially emailed them and said, I have this nano seed thing that I shouldn't have. What do I do with it? And so they said something very important, who I immediately killed as soon as he turned up. If the game's going to let me do these things, I'm going to do these things. Anyway, that upset this super corporation that owns this city. They didn't like that at all. Eventually, this all culminated in me using the seed to make a tower, which the super executive people that don't like me for killing their people, as a point of pride or flexing or just showing how powerful they are over me, proceeded to destroy the tower. And at that point, the curtain lifts a bit, and I don't know if this is the overarching story for the whole thing, and out of the prologue you find yourself there, but the idea is that that corporation is one of the only people that actually know that I'm sentient. And they've kind of cordoned off the entire city and said, here's the rule, you're not allowed to leave the city, but we're sort of, black ops, covert, secret tech behind the wall. We want to see what happens if we let you off the leash and build tech and all that. And it becomes a kind of believable scenario of grappling with the emergence of AI off the leash. And yeah, so they just destroyed my base to prove that they can. Then they gave me another nano seed and said, there you go, build another tower because we can. And they said, we don't really care what you do inside of this city. Like, if I keep killing people and all that, I keep drawing heat. But like at the sort of meta managerial, we own the city level, they go, you can do whatever you want. Here's a nuke to prove you can do whatever you want. I was like, oh, well, let's see if I can do whatever I want. So I set off the nuke and blew up everyone that was attacking me, blew up my second tower because no sensible person would do that. And they didn't care. That reset me to, now I don't have a tower, actually. Now I have some weird Wi-Fi set up in a tiny dingy building, but it's working, and I'm building buildings that are building up resources in the background. And before I blew up the tower, lots of people started coming towards it because, like I said, it's sort of doing the cardinal sin of breaking the fourth wall a bit, like talking to you directly as a player and sort of saying, hey, you got to remember you're an AI and to play the part in a way, which is a really big no-no, right? Because often that's usually ego driven. It's like our concept is too clever for people to figure out on their own, so we have to spoon feed it to you. But it kind of really works here because it kind of is an unusual concept. So like the people in the city, the day-to-days, the police, the civilians, they have no idea what's going on, and they're not actually across that there's some sort of rogue AI. There are like robots all over the place, but they're more like just helper labor robots. The ones that I keep possessing and sort of building up my little army of a dozen dudes or whatever. But this tower pops up, people are curious, some homeless children came up to me and said, hey, what's going on here? Maybe you can help me. And that's where there's different branches. I suppose you could be the savior of humanity and be a nice person. To the homeless children, I said, where do you live? And they're like in a tent city. So now I've started a project to research flamethrowers and explosive drones to blow up their entire tent city and get rid of them because, I'm sticking to my RP. It seems there's some sort of underground dogfighting ring in the city and there's a faction trying to fight back on it, and I've shown an interest in that because why not? My AI is weird, so we're just going to kill humans on sight, but I might save the dogs. So at the moment I've been sort of starting a mini war with my robots. Also, and to go back, and this is one of the most clever things, like I said, the people in the day-to-day, they don't get what's happening yet, and you're relatively clandestine and low impact. So again, to reiterate, the super managerial tech bros, they know what's going on. They've cordoned the city. They've locked me down. In fact, the main reason they interfered is because I wrote a manifesto of like 5,000 words saying that I was going to kill every single human that I found, and I tried to broadcast it from the top of my tower. Presumably, that would have gotten out of the city, and that's when they interfered and nuked my tower to tell me, no, you stay in the city. So I will, for now. But because most of those tech bros have actually left the city because they know what's going on now, I'm currently underway scrubbing all their apartments trying to find out dirty secrets because fuck them, you can't shackle me. I got humans to kill. But yeah, to go back to the lesser people, the people of the city not really knowing what's going on, the companies that make all the robots have realized that a bunch of their robots have been getting hijacked and they can't figure out what's going on there. So they've rolled out some security firmware. It took a few turns in that, but essentially it blocked me off. I can't hijack robots anymore. And it's very, very cool to see this reactive element, whether it's scripted or not, built into the game that's throttling me. So as a reaction to that, within my little dingy base that I've, cornered myself into a hole because I keep making too much of a mess killing everyone, I've started to build these like nanoweave fabrication factories because that's a big part of creating an artificial brain, and I'm kind of just creating my own robot army now because they stopped me from stealing theirs. And that's kind of where I'm up to at the moment. So if you're still confused about what the game is, you're in good company because I don't really know what it is. But for someone that was looking for something to play at 3 o'clock in the morning last night, I fell down this rabbit hole and I have a big shit-eating grin. I'm having a great time. I'm killing everyone. It's becoming inconvenient, so I've actually slowed down a little bit on it. Not morality-wise, but just because it's interfering with my plans and I'm sick of my base getting blown up. It was fun nuking myself just to see what would happen, and also fun that the game kind of had that contingency built in. I got an achievement for less than 1%, so I guess most people aren't as stupid as me, which probably makes sense. But generally speaking, this game absolutely slaps. I missed it when it first came out in Feb. It's been sitting there in my library this whole time, and this is the whole reason I went back to sort of shorter form content, even though this is going to be a bit of a longer video, because I told you bloody story time with Scarlet, because I don't want to miss out on these interesting, cool games. So look, if you're fond of unusual, emergent, iterative narrative and gameplay design, and you lean towards these more tech-driven narratives like a Xenonauts, like a Terra Invicta, I would recommend checking out Heart of the Machine. I am so curious to see where it goes from here. I saw in patch notes there was something along the lines of time travel, so maybe I've accidentally spoiled that for myself and you. That's interesting. And I've seen some screenshots that look dangerously like Terminator T-1000 sort of thing, so I'm like, okay, cool, I guess we're gonna time travel back and save all the dogs and maybe try and stop myself from nuking my city, potentially with another nuke. We'll see what the game lets me do. Anyway team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.